June 22, 1941. 3:47 a.m. Odessa, Soviet Ukraine. Lyudmila Pavlichenko crouched behind a shattered brick wall, her Mosin Nagant rifle pressed against her cheek. 400 meters away, a German officer surveyed the ruins through binoculars. She exhaled slowly, let her heartbeat settle, and squeezed. The officer dropped. 24 years old, a history student 3 weeks ago, she'd just made her first kill. The man who'd laughed at her application that morning, Sergeant Drozdov, now stared at her in silence. 8 days earlier, she'd been writing her thesis on Bohdan Khmelnytsky. Now she was rewriting the rules of modern warfare. Before we continue with Pavlichenko's incredible story, we need your help to keep these forgotten heroes alive. If you're already hooked by what you're hearing, hit that like button right now. It tells YouTube to share this with more people who care about real history. Subscribe to this channel so you never miss another story of courage and innovation from World War II. And here's something we love. Drop a comment below and tell us where you're watching from. Your country, your city. We have viewers from Buenos Aires to Berlin, from Manila to Montreal. Are you a veteran? Did your grandfather serve? Do you have a connection to this war? We want to hear from you. Now back to Odessa, June 1941, where Pavlichenko was about to become the deadliest female combatant in recorded history. The morning of June 20th, 1941, Lyudmila Mikhailovna Pavlichenko walked into Red Army recruitment office, the Machul 14 in Kiev. She was 5 feet 4 inches tall, weighed 118 pounds, wore glasses for reading, and had just completed her 3rd year studying history at Kiev University. The recruiting officer, a balding major named Komarov, looked up from his paperwork and smiled. Not a warm smile. The smile you give a child who says something absurd. Nursing course is down the hall, Devushka, 3rd door on the left. I'm not here for nursing corps, Lyudmila said. I'm here for combat infantry. Komarov laughed, actually laughed. Go home, girl. War is no place for... I'm a Voroshilov marksman, Lyudmila interrupted. She placed her certification on his desk. Masterclass. I've been shooting since I was 14. The smile vanished. Komarov studied the document. Genuine, signed, verified. He'd seen thousands of recruits. Most men couldn't shoot straight at 50 meters. This university girl claimed master marksman status. Impossible. But it wasn't impossible. Lyudmila had grown up in a small flat in Bila Tserkva, 30 miles south of Kiev. Her father worked at the Arsenalna plant. Her mother taught in the local school. At 14, Lyudmila joined a shooting club to impress a boy named Alexei Kitsenko. The boy lost interest after 2 weeks. Lyudmila kept shooting, and shooting, and shooting. By 16, she could hit a playing card at 100 meters. By 18, she'd won regional competitions. By 20, she'd married a young doctor named Alexei Pavlichenko, different Alexei, had a son and divorced within 3 years. Life moved on. University replaced marriage, books replaced romance. But she never stopped shooting. Fine, Komarov finally said. He scribbled on a form. Report to the 25th Rifle Division, Odessa. They'll test you there. When you fail, don't come crying back here. She didn't fail. June 28, 1941. Odessa Military District Training Ground, 6 days after Germany invaded. Lyudmila stood on a firing range with 43 male recruits. The range officer, Sergeant Drozdov, the man who'd witnessed her first kill, handed her a Mosin Nagant 1891-30. Standard issue, old but reliable. 7, 62 Sex 54 mm rounds, effective range, 800 meters, in the right hands. 500 meters, Drozdov announced. 5 shots. Target is a human silhouette. 37 recruits failed. 5 hit the target once. Lyudmila put all 5 rounds through the head. Beginner's luck, Drozdov muttered. Test me at 600, Lyudmila said. She hit all 5 again, 700 meters, all 5, 800 meters. 4 out of 5. 1 round hit the neck instead of the head. Wind had shifted. Drozdov said nothing. He assigned her to the 25th Chapayev Rifle Division as a sniper. No ceremony, no congratulations. Just a rifle, 200 rounds, and a train ticket to the front. The front came to her. By July the 1st, German and Romanian forces had surrounded Odessa. The siege would last 73 days. It would kill 41,000 Soviet soldiers. It would also forge the deadliest female sniper in history. Lyudmila's first week in Odessa, she killed 8 German soldiers. Clean shots, professional, no hesitation. Other snipers whispered about her. Command didn't know what to make of her. Women served as medics, as radio operators, as support staff. Women didn't kill, except Lyudmila did. Efficiently, methodically, without emotion. But she wasn't emotionless. She just learned to separate feeling from function. At night, in her journal, she wrote about the men she killed, not with regret, with curiosity. Who were they? Did they have families? What had brought them here? During the day, she killed them. At night, she wondered about them. This dichotomy, philosopher and executioner, would define her entire war. August 3rd, 1941. Odessa, northwest defensive sector. Temperature 34 degrees Celsius. Humidity thick enough to taste. Lyudmila lay in a crater created by Romanian artillery. Beside her lay Leonid Kitsenko, no relation to her childhood crush Alexei, different Leonid. This Leonid was 19, from Kharkiv, a machinist's apprentice before the war. He'd arrived in Odessa 2 weeks earlier, assigned as Lyudmila's spotter. They'd become partners, not friends. War didn't allow friendship, but partners. Leonid called targets. Lyudmila eliminated them. They worked with mechanical precision. In 14 days, they'd confirmed 32 kills together. Leonid talked constantly. About his girlfriend Oksana back in Kharkiv, about the motorcycle repair shop they'd open after the war, Kitsenko and Kitsenko Mechanics. He'd already designed the logo. 200 meters, Leonid whispered. German officer, by the burned-out truck. Lyudmila adjusted her scope, found him, Wehrmacht Hauptmann, mid-30s, studying a map. She centered the crosshairs on his temple. Wait, Leonid said. Something's wrong. Lyudmila paused. Leonid had good instincts. She scanned the area, found it. 50 meters left of the Hauptmann. Another German, in ghillie camouflage, barely visible, scanning with a scope of his own. A counter-sniper, hunting her. He hasn't seen us yet, Leonid breathed. Take the officer first. I'll mark the sniper. Professional decision. Officers were priority targets. Lyudmila re-centered on the Hauptmann, squeezed. The German collapsed. Simultaneously, the enemy sniper whipped toward their position. He'd heard the shot. He was searching. Leonid was raising his binoculars to mark the exact position when the enemy fired first. The round hit Leonid in the throat. He made no sound, just grabbed at his neck as blood poured between his fingers. Lyudmila pressed her hand over the wound. Useless. She knew it was useless, but she pressed anyway. Leonid's eyes found hers. He tried to speak. Couldn't. 3 seconds later, he died. Lyudmila didn't move. The enemy sniper was still searching. If she shifted, he'd see her. If she stayed, he might lose interest. She waited. 5 minutes. 10. Leonid's blood soaked into the dirt. Still, she waited. 15 minutes. The German finally moved, just a fraction, adjusting his position. There. Lyudmila fired. The German's head snapped back, dead before he heard the shot. That night, Lyudmila didn't write in her journal. She sat in her bunker, cleaned her rifle, and made Leonid a promise. Every German she killed from now on would be for him. For the motorcycle shop that would never exist. For Oksana, who'd receive a telegram saying, "Killed in action." For all the futures this war was erasing. Between August 1941 and January 1942, Soviet snipers in Odessa and Sevastopol died at catastrophic rates, 38% mortality. The Germans had learned. They deployed specialized Scharfschützen, trained counter-snipers with superior optics and dedicated hunter teams. They used spotters, triangulation, acoustic detection. They studied Soviet patterns, where snipers hid, how they moved, when they fired. Soviet snipers kept dying. Same mistakes, same predictable positions, same results. 17 snipers in Lyudmila's division died in 4 months. Men she'd trained with, men she'd shared bunkers with, all killed the same way, by German counter-snipers who'd learned to read their patterns. Lyudmila noticed something nobody else did. The German counter-snipers were good, professionally trained, but they followed doctrine rigidly. They expected Soviet snipers to operate from elevated positions, rooftops, upper windows, bell towers, classic sniper positions, so Lyudmila stopped using them. October 19, 1941, 4:15 a.m., Odessa, South Sector. Lyudmila lay in a sewage drainage pipe. Disgusting, cold, filled with rats and standing water. She'd been there for 7 hours. Most snipers wouldn't tolerate such conditions. Most snipers were dead. 300 meters away, a German sniper team had taken position in a partially collapsed apartment building. 3rd floor, good sightlines, textbook placement. They'd killed 2 Soviet snipers from that position in the past week. Command wanted them eliminated. Lyudmila watched them through her scope. 2 men, 1 sniper, 1 spotter, professional, disciplined. They scanned rooftops, windows, elevated positions. They never looked down. Never considered that their hunter might be lying in a sewage pipe at ground level. She waited. Patience was the difference between living and dying. At 11:23 a.m., the German sniper stood to stretch. Just for a moment, Lyudmila fired. He fell backward. The spotter dove for cover, wrong direction into Lyudmila's sightline. She fired again. Both dead. Total time, 4 seconds. This became her method. Sewage pipes, basements, collapsed buildings, rubble piles, anywhere below the expected sightline. Places so uncomfortable, so disgusting, so counterintuitive that German counter-snipers never thought to check them. She'd spend 8, 10, 12 hours in positions that would make most soldiers vomit, covered in filth, bitten by rats. Frozen or roasting depending on the season, but alive and effective. Her kill count climbed, 15, 25, 40, 75. Each one documented, witnessed, confirmed. The Red Army required confirmation for sniper kills. A second observer had to verify each elimination. No speculation, no guesses, only confirmed kills counted. By November 1941, Lyudmila Pavlichenko had killed 93 German and Romanian soldiers, more than any other Soviet sniper in the Southern Theater. Command took notice, reluctant, grudging notice. Women weren't supposed to be this effective at killing. But numbers didn't lie. The Germans took notice too. November 12, 1941. German intelligence intercepted Soviet radio communications. They'd identified a pattern, an unusually effective sniper operating in Odessa. A woman, according to intercepted communications. Impossible, their analysts said. Propaganda. The Soviets were exaggerating. Women couldn't achieve such numbers. But the German casualties kept mounting. Officers, NCOs, machine gun crews, all falling to precise professional shots from unexpected angles. German command designated her Todesfrau, death woman. They assigned a specialized hunter team, 5 counter-snipers. Their sole mission, eliminate Pavlichenko. They studied her patterns, tracked her movements, predicted her positions. They were hunting her with the same precision she used to hunt them. December 4, 1941. Lyudmila knew they were coming. Soviet intelligence had intercepted German communications about the specialized team, 5 elite snipers, all hunting her. Most soldiers would have requested transfer, sought safer positions. Lyudmila did the opposite. She hunted them back. For 2 weeks, it was a chess match. The Germans knew she was there. She knew they were searching. Neither side could find the other. Both sides too skilled, too careful, too patient. The stalemate couldn't last forever. December 18, 1941. 2:00 a.m. Freezing rain. Lyudmila positioned herself inside a destroyed bakery, not in the building, inside the oven, the brick oven itself. She'd removed the debris, crawled inside and waited. For 16 hours. The oven provided concealment and a firing port through the collapsed chimney. Uncomfortable, cramped, but invisible. At 6:15 p.m., 3 German snipers entered the building across the street. They moved professionally, checking corners, scanning rooftops. They positioned themselves in a second-floor room. Good overwatch of the surrounding area. They settled in to wait. They were using the same tactic Lyudmila used. Patience, time, stillness. She waited longer. 7 hours. The Germans grew comfortable, confident. At 1:00 a.m. one of them lit a cigarette. Stupid mistake. The cherry glowed in the darkness. Lyudmila fired. The German fell. The other two scattered. One toward a window, one toward the door. She fired again. Window. Dead. She cycled the bolt. Fired. Door. Dead. 3 shots. 4 seconds. The 2 surviving members of the hunter team retreated the next day. Intelligence later confirmed they'd requested immediate transfer to the Western Front. Fighting the British seemed safer than hunting Pavlichenko. By December 31, 1941, Lyudmila Pavlichenko had killed 187 confirmed enemies in 6 months. She'd also killed 11 enemy snipers in direct duels. The Red Army promoted her to senior sergeant. They issued a commendation. But they still didn't quite know what to make of her. A woman with more confirmed kills than most male snipers achieved in years of combat. It violated every assumption, every expectation, every comfortable prejudice. The men in her unit stopped laughing. They started asking her for advice, how to conceal positions, how to read wind, how to stay still for hours. She taught them what she knew, not because she liked teaching, because their survival increased her survival. Dead snipers couldn't provide covering fire. January 1942. Soviet High Command evacuated most forces from Odessa. The city couldn't be held. They relocated the defense to Sevastopol. Lyudmila went with them. New city, new siege, same war. Sevastopol proved worse than Odessa. The Germans threw everything at the city. Artillery, Luftwaffe bombers, elite assault troops. The siege would last 250 days. It would kill 150,000 Soviet soldiers. Lyudmila would spend 6 months there, the worst 6 months of her life, and the most productive. February through May 1942, Sevastopol. Lyudmila operated from destroyed buildings, collapsed bunkers, shell craters, anywhere that provided concealment and sightlines. She adopted a pattern: never use the same position twice, never fire more than 2 shots from one location, never stay visible longer than necessary, move constantly, stay unpredictable, stay alive. Her kill count climbed relentlessly. 200, 220, 250, each kill confirmed, each kill documented. German casualties from sniper fire in Sevastopol increased by 40%. Other Soviet snipers started using her tactics: low positions, constant movement, patience over aggression. The German hunter teams couldn't adapt fast enough. But the adaptation came, slowly, brutally. March 27, 1942. Lyudmila positioned herself in a collapsed basement. Good sight lines, multiple exits. She'd been there for 4 hours when she felt it. The sensation of being watched. She scanned the surrounding area through her scope. Nothing. No movement. No reflection. But the feeling persisted. 20 years of shooting had taught her to trust instinct. Something was wrong. She stayed motionless, barely breathing. 5 minutes, 10. Then she saw it. 400 meters away, in rubble that looked like random debris, a ghillie suit, perfectly camouflaged, a German sniper, watching her position, waiting for her to move, to expose herself. She'd found him because of one tiny mistake. A piece of his camouflage had snagged on exposed rebar, created an unnatural line. Most people would never notice. Lyudmila wasn't most people. She adjusted her aim. Microscopic movements. The German didn't react, didn't see. She fired. He collapsed. 4th counter-sniper she'd killed. Still breathing, still learning, still alive. May 1942. German High Command issued a new directive. Sevastopol must fall. They deployed the 800mm Gustav gun, the largest artillery piece ever built. They deployed assault divisions. They deployed everything. The city burned. Buildings collapsed. Entire blocks disappeared under bombardment. Soviet defenders died by the thousands. Snipers became irrelevant in such apocalyptic destruction. almost irrelevant. Lyudmila kept working, between artillery barrages, between bombing runs. She'd find a position, wait for German troops to advance, kill officers, withdraw before the next barrage. 270 kills. 285. 295. June 6, 1942. 3:30 p.m. Sevastopol, northeast sector. Lyudmila lay in a crater created by naval artillery, 40 meters wide, filled with rubble and bodies. She'd positioned herself among the dead. Ghoulish but effective. German troops advancing through the sector wouldn't expect fire from a crater full of corpses. She was lining up a shot on a German officer when she heard the whistle. Incoming mortar. She tried to move. Too late. The shell impacted 20 meters away. Shrapnel tore through her left leg and shoulder. She felt no pain initially, just pressure. Then heat. Then everything hurt. Another Soviet soldier, Private Fyodor Sedik from Leningrad, a medic, dragged her out of the crater. Probably saved her life. Definitely ended her combat career, temporarily. Command evacuated her by submarine. The wound was serious but not fatal. Shrapnel had missed major arteries. Lucky. She'd been lucky, after 10 months on the front lines. After 309 confirmed kills. Lucky. Final count. 309 enemy soldiers eliminated, including 36 enemy snipers killed in direct duels. More than any other female combatant in recorded history, achieved in 10 months of active combat. Average, 1 confirmed kill per day. The numbers were incomprehensible. Even to Lyudmila, she didn't feel victorious. She felt tired. She spent 6 weeks recovering in a Moscow hospital. During recovery, a political officer visited her. Soviet High Command wanted to use her for propaganda. The Americans and British needed convincing that the Soviet Union could win. A decorated female sniper would make good propaganda. Would she be willing? She wasn't willing. She wanted to return to combat. But the Soviet Union didn't ask. They told. July 1942. Lyudmila Pavlichenko began a propaganda tour. First stop, Moscow. Public appearances. Speeches written by committee. Questions from journalists who'd never seen combat. She hated every minute. But orders were orders. August 1942. Soviet High Command sent her to the United States, part of a Soviet delegation. They wanted American support, American weapons, American commitment to opening a second front. Lyudmila would help convince them, or so the theory went. She arrived in Washington, D.C. wearing her uniform. Covered in medals, including the Order of Lenin, the highest Soviet honor. American journalists mobbed her. They asked about her uniform, about her lack of makeup, about whether she wore silk stockings under her military uniform. Not one asked about combat, about tactics, about the 309 men she'd killed. They asked about fashion. She gave one press conference. A journalist asked why Soviet women didn't wear makeup at the front. Lyudmila stared at him for 3 seconds, then responded, "There is no rule against it, but I got my nails dirty in the trenches before you got yours in newsprint." The room went silent. The propaganda officer accompanying her looked mortified. Lyudmila didn't care. She was done playing their game. But something unexpected happened. Eleanor Roosevelt attended one of her speeches. The First Lady actually listened, actually asked intelligent questions about combat, about tactics, about what it meant to kill. They spoke for 2 hours. Roosevelt invited her to the White House. Lyudmila became the first Soviet citizen officially received at the White House, not as a prop, as a soldier. Roosevelt asked her to tour the country, to speak at factories, at universities, at labor rallies, to tell Americans what was happening in the Soviet Union. Lyudmila agreed, not because of politics, because Roosevelt treated her like a soldier, not a curiosity, not a propaganda tool, a soldier. September through November 1942. Lyudmila toured the United States. She spoke in Chicago, in New York, in Detroit, in San Francisco. She told American workers that the Soviet Union was bleeding, that they needed help, that opening a second front would save Soviet lives. Her speeches were direct, blunt, honest. She didn't sugarcoat, didn't exaggerate, just stated facts. 309 Germans, 10 months, help us or we die. Simple mathematics. The tour worked. American public opinion shifted. Support for Soviet aid increased. Pressure mounted on Roosevelt to open a second front. Lyudmila Pavlichenko, the university student who'd been laughed out of a recruitment office 18 months earlier, had influenced American foreign policy, not through politics, through truth. She also toured Britain, met with military officials, attended formal dinners, received honors. She hated the formality, the ceremony, the distance from real combat. But she performed her duty. The war didn't end because she was uncomfortable. December 1942. Lyudmila returned to the Soviet Union. Command assigned her to train snipers. She taught at multiple schools, shared her tactics, her methods, her philosophy, low positions, patience, unpredictability. She trained hundreds of snipers, both male and female. Her students went to the front, used her methods, survived longer, killed more effectively. Her influence multiplied. If she'd killed 309 Germans personally, her students killed thousands, maybe tens of thousands. The mathematics of force multiplication. By the end of the war, over 2,000 Soviet women served as snipers. Collectively, they killed more than 12,000 Axis soldiers. The Soviet Union was the only major power to deploy female snipers in significant numbers. Western allies considered it barbaric, uncivilized. Women shouldn't kill. The Soviets considered it practical, pragmatic. Gender was irrelevant when survival was at stake. Lyudmila Pavlichenko spent the rest of the war training snipers. She never returned to frontline combat. Her leg injury never fully healed. She walked with a slight limp. The shrapnel in her shoulder caused chronic pain. Small prices for survival. May 1945. Germany surrendered. Lyudmila Pavlichenko was 28 years old. She'd killed 309 men, trained hundreds more to kill, influenced American foreign policy, met presidents and prime ministers, and she just wanted to go home. She returned to Kyiv, completed her history degree, master's thesis, Soviet foreign policy during the war. She became a historian. The irony wasn't lost on her. She'd made history. Now she taught it. Kyiv State University hired her. She taught for 30 years. Her students didn't know who she was. She never mentioned the war, never wore her medals, just taught history, medieval studies, early modern period, never military history. Too close, too personal. She married twice more. Both marriages failed. She never explained why, but perhaps living with someone who'd killed 309 people created complications. Perhaps the distance between the 24-year-old student and the woman who'd returned from Sevastopol was too great. Perhaps she'd left part of herself in those sewage pipes and shell craters and destroyed buildings. She had a son from her first marriage. Rostislav, he became an engineer, designed agricultural equipment, built things instead of destroying them. She was proud of that. Proud he'd never had to kill, never had to lie in frozen mud for 16 hours waiting to shoot a stranger. The war had ended. He could build. She'd killed, so he could build. The Soviet government published her memoir, The Gold Star Rifle. State-edited, sanitized, full of propaganda. It described her service, her kills, her courage. It didn't describe the smell of Leonid Kitsenko's blood, the rats in the sewage pipes, the cold mathematics of killing, the weight of 309 deaths. Books never captured that. Couldn't capture it. Some things couldn't be written. A Ukrainian historian researching female combat roles interviewed Lyudmila. Asked about her time in Odessa and Sevastopol, she answered factually. Precise numbers, dates, locations, no emotion, no detail. The historian pushed. Wanted human interest, wanted feelings. Lyudmila refused. I was a soldier. I did my duty, nothing more. The interview ended. The historian published his book, devoted 2 paragraphs to her. 309 kills reduced to 2 paragraphs. October 10, 1974, Lyudmila Pavlichenko died in Moscow. Heart attack, 58 years old. The Soviet government gave her a military funeral, full honors, speeches about heroism and sacrifice, burial at Novodevichy Cemetery in Moscow. Her gravestone listed her name, her dates, her rank, and one line: Hero of the Soviet Union. Nothing about the 309, nothing about changing American public opinion, nothing about training 2,000 snipers. Just one line. Western media barely noticed. The New York Times published a 4-sentence obituary, said she was a Soviet sniper, killed many Germans. No number, no context, no mention that she'd toured America in 1942, that she'd met Roosevelt, that she'd influenced the war. 4 sentences. 309 kills, 10 months at the front, reduced to 4 sentences. The Soviet military established a small museum in her honor, located in a Kiev basement, open by appointment only. It contained her rifle, her medals, a few photographs. Fewer than 100 people visited per year. The museum closed in 1997. Budget cuts. The rifle went into storage. The medals to her son. The photographs to an archive. The museum space became a restaurant, Italian cuisine. Good reviews on TripAdvisor. But her legacy persisted, not through museums, through technique. Soviet and Russian sniper doctrine still incorporates her methods. Low positions, constant movement, patience over aggression. American and British snipers studied Soviet tactics after the Cold War. Adopted some principles, modified others. Lyudmila Pavlichenko never knew that Western militaries, who'd dismissed female combatants as barbaric, now trained their snipers using tactics developed by a 24-year-old university student in Odessa sewage pipes. 21st century. Historians began reassessing female combat roles, academic papers, books, documentaries. Lyudmila Pavlichenko featured prominently, not as propaganda, as reality. The numbers were too precise to dismiss. 309 confirmed kills, 36 enemy snipers eliminated, 10 months of front-line combat. These weren't exaggerations. Soviet military records confirmed everything. German records confirmed their casualties. The British and Americans who'd met her confirmed she was real, competent, professional, lethal. Modern military analysts studied her tactics, the low-position doctrine, the constant movement, the psychological endurance required to lie in a sewage pipe for 16 hours. They concluded what her contemporaries couldn't admit: gender was irrelevant. Skill, discipline, patience, these determined effectiveness. Not chromosomes, not tradition, not assumptions. But the recognition came too late. 60 years too late. Lyudmila Pavlichenko died unknown, buried with minimal recognition, her rifle in storage, her story reduced to propaganda and footnotes. The men she'd killed had names, families, futures. She'd ended them, methodically, without hesitation, because war demanded it, because survival required it, because someone had to kill or be killed, and she chose to kill. This is what war does. It takes a 24-year-old history student who loved books and shooting competitions. It puts her in sewage pipes and shell craters. It teaches her that killing is a skill like any other. Practice, repetition, improvement. It makes her so effective at killing that she influences international politics. Then it discards her, sends her to teach medieval history to students who never know what she did, who she was, what she carried. Lyudmila Pavlichenko killed 309 men. The number is precise because she was precise. Each kill confirmed, each kill documented. No guesses, no inflation, just cold mathematics. Just cold. 309 human beings who woke up one morning and died before lunch because a Ukrainian woman in a sewage pipe proved better at killing than they were at surviving. She never apologized, never expressed regret. When asked, she said, "I did my duty." That was all. No elaboration, no justification. Duty. 4 letters. Simple concept. Impossible weight. If this story moved you, if it made you think about the forgotten soldiers who changed history, then help us preserve these memories. Hit that like button so more people discover these true stories of courage and innovation. Subscribe to this channel. We release a new forgotten history story every week, and each one is as remarkable as this. And drop a comment below. Tell us, What surprised you most about Lyudmila's story? Did you know women served as snipers? Do you have female veterans in your family? Where are you watching from? We have viewers in 73 countries, and every comment, every share, every like helps keep these heroes from being forgotten forever. Thank you for spending time with Lyudmila Pavlichenko's story. Thank you for remembering her, for remembering Leonid Kitsenko, for remembering the 309 men whose names we don't know, but who died nonetheless. History isn't just kings and generals. It's university students in sewage pipes. It's mechanics' apprentices dreaming of motorcycle shops. It's human beings doing impossible things because circumstances demanded the impossible. Remember their names. Remember their numbers. Remember that gender, tradition and assumption mean nothing when survival is at stake. Skill matters, courage matters, discipline matters. Everything else is noise. Lyudmila Pavlichenko proved this. With 309 bullets, in 10 months, 60 years before anyone wanted to admit it. Remember her.